These houses vary in location, style, and building materials, but they share one crucial element. They are vulnerable. Vulnerable to devastating natural disasters that can demolish these shelters and leave people homeless or worse.
A large proportion of the world's population lives in homes that are vulnerable to floods, tropical cyclones, and earthquakes. Many people are not aware of these great risks. Others assume that there is nothing that they can do to protect themselves. During the last 30 years, more than 1 million people have been killed in natural disasters. Over 100 million suffered personal injury and serious property loss. For poor people, the impact of that loss is incalculable.
Because the danger is so widespread, as a part of the U.S. Foreign Disaster Assistance, the Agency for International Development is helping especially vulnerable countries to develop comprehensive pre-disaster damage mitigation programs, and of course to inform and educate populations in high-risk areas. Our goal is to encourage communities to become self-sufficient in reducing their own vulnerability.
People living in less developed countries are particularly vulnerable to personal and property losses. The shelter problem is critical in most developing countries, and losses in the existing housing stock can represent a severe drain on national resources.
These maps illustrate the enormous scale of the problem. The colored areas show concentrations of populations in the regions prone to each type of disaster. In most of these disaster-prone areas, the majority of the people live in homes that are unsafe.
Much of this devastation is unnecessary. The effects of these awesome natural forces can be reduced or avoided by the application of the knowledge at our command. Structural damage and related loss of human life can be prevented through informed land use planning, proper site selection, and improved shelter design. Too many homes are built in extremely dangerous places, in low-lying coastal areas, in seismic zones, on hillsides which may be subject to landslides during earthquakes, or in floodplains, posing a recurring threat to homes and families. When the opportunity to practice sound land use planning exists, steps should be taken to ensure that houses are located in safer areas. If land adjacent to flooding rivers is used for farming or recreation instead of human habitation, for example, there will be little or no permanent damage. Parks can survive. Houses cannot. In some cases, however, entire regions can be vulnerable, and people must live in potentially dangerous situations. In designing and building their homes, these hazardous circumstances must be taken into account. New homes can be built using disaster-resistant techniques, and even existing structures can be improved to resist destructive forces by employing a series of minor modifications. This wood frame house stands in a tropical cyclone region. Here is a typical joint, a key structural element of the house. This joint will not withstand the extreme force of a cyclone. When it fails, even more pressure is placed on adjacent walls, increasing the danger of collapse. This is the same joint, reassembled for maximum strength. All structural members are fastened together with tie-down straps, and a properly nailed corner diagonal brace is added. This time, the structure is more likely to survive the stress of high winds. These improvements can be made on existing homes at very low cost, and there may be little or no additional cost for new construction. Earthquake zones pose a different set of problems, especially where adobe construction is popular. Traditionally, an adobe home is constructed from earthen blocks with a roof made of large timbers and heavy clay tiles. The roof is often inadequately fastened to the walls, and its weight places the center of gravity up high in the building, making it top-heavy. During an earthquake, the rigid walls will shake with the ground. The heavy roof, moving at a different rate, separates from the walls, destroys its own supports, and collapses. A lightweight metal roof, properly fastened to the walls, will be less susceptible to the effects of earthquake forces, since it will move together with the rest of the house. This roof should remain in place, protecting the house and its inhabitants. Each structural problem must be analyzed in the context of its particular region, culture, economy, and availability of materials. Keeping the unique qualities of each culture in mind is crucial to determining an acceptable and appropriate solution for the people who live in these houses. A comprehensive analysis of one cyclone-prone region has been undertaken in the Dominican Republic for the U.S. Agency for International Development. The study identifies a number of design problems and suggests simple and inexpensive solutions. This type of framework, for example, is built with posts set directly into the ground. Often, these posts are not treated against rot or insects and are subject to deterioration. During a cyclone, they may break off at the ground, and the house will collapse. Instead, the post should be treated, set in the ground to a depth of at least a half a meter, and reinforced with diagonal braces. If the area under a house built on posts is left open, cyclone velocity winds will get underneath the building and lift it off its supports. Enclosing the base of the house with stones, earth, or boards keeps the wind out. Again, a simple remedy results in a stronger and safer home. Similarly, adjustments in roof structure can yield important safety improvements. A house with a very shallow sloped roof is vulnerable to a cyclone's upward suction, a force strong enough to pull the roof away from the house. A roof slope of 30 to 45 degrees is more resistant to high winds. Large overhangs or eaves trap high winds capable of ripping the roof from the house. The maximum overhang should be half a meter. If the underside of an overhang is left open, the wind will put extreme pressure on the underside of the roofing material and blow the roof off. The overhang should be enclosed to keep the wind out. When the porch roof of a house is built as a continuation of the main roof, the cyclone wind will again be trapped under the open portion and may destroy the entire roof. The roof over the porch should be built separately from the main roof.